Look, I'm going to be straight with you. What you're going to learn now will change the way you look at every single human interaction. Your father didn't teach it to you, neither did your teachers. Most people are going to live and die without ever understanding it. 5 centuries ago, a man named Niccolò Machiavelli sat in exile. He had lost everything: his position, his allies, and his reputation. But he had seen too much of the world to look away. In that silence, he wrote down what nobody else had dared to say out loud: the hidden structure beneath all politics and persuasion, the unspoken rules of power. When The Prince was published, the church banned it. Leaders denounced it. Yet, behind closed doors, every ruler read it. Because Machiavelli was not describing evil, he was describing truth. He knew that power has its own gravity. It does not depend on morality. It depends on understanding human nature. And that is what you are about to understand too. People are not rational. They are emotional. They choose not what benefits them. They choose what comforts them. Long before psychology gave it names, Machiavelli saw it. Humans are moved by appearance, image, and feeling, by pain and pleasure far more than by fact. They choose safety over logic. They follow confidence over evidence. You observe it around you every day. Somebody hangs onto a failing job because it feels comfortable. Somebody disregards good counsel because it bruises their ego. Somebody follows a leader who makes them feel significant over one who tells them the truth. Machiavelli said men judge by the eye, not by the hand. They see what is apparent and strong and assume it is good. If you want to lead or influence, you have to stop appealing to reason. You have to speak to emotion. Make people feel seen. Make them feel safe. Give them a story that comforts their identity. Truth alone won't move them. How you deliver it will. That is the first lesson. The second is about loyalty. You are taught that loyalty is always good, that once you give it, you should never take it back. Machiavelli saw the danger in that. He wrote that love and fear rarely exist together, and that when one must choose, fear is safer. He was not saying cruelty is strength. He said predictability is power. Love shifts with emotion. Fear endures through clarity. Loyalty must be mutual to mean anything. When it becomes one-sided, it turns into servitude. You can be loyal to people, but only while they are loyal to you. Once they break that pact, you don't owe them continued service. That is not strength. That is blindness. He taught that loyalty must be inspired through value, not need. People stay faithful to those who protect their interests or elevate their lives, not to those who plead for affection. The third truth is about reputation. Most men think that to be real means to show everything. They believe that if people could just see the real them, they would understand. Machiavelli called that foolish. People see what you show them. They can't see your heart. They see your consistency, your tone, your presence. Reputation is the shadow of your actions. It is your armor and your weapon. It should be carefully built and constantly looked after. Never reveal your motives too soon. Never explain to those who cannot change outcomes. Mystery is not deception, it's protection. A man who overshare his plans weaken his position. A man who acts quietly gains strength. The fewer people who understand your next move, the less they can resist it. Every man should manage his image. That doesn't mean faking being something you're not. It means sculpting perception, so what people see aligns with what you need them to believe. That's not manipulation, that's precision. The fourth truth concerns conflict. He thus wrote that war cannot be avoided, that it can only be delayed to the advantage of others. This does not just mean physical battle, but means confrontation in every form. Disagreement, competition, testing. The wise do not seek war, but they live prepared for it. Preparation is the silent discipline that prevents collapse. A man who keeps his body sharp, his finances steady, his alliances balanced, never panics when storms arrive. He has already rehearsed the response. His calm becomes his advantage. Machiavelli noticed that most people confuse peace with safety. Peace doesn't mean the absence of threat. It means the presence of readiness. Those who avoid discomfort become servants to those who master it. The fifth truth is about the difference between being nice and being good. Nice guys avoid conflict. Good guys don't. Nice guys seek to be liked. Good guys seek respect. Machiavelli said that men obey their immediate needs. They follow whoever satisfies them the fastest. The deceiver always has victims in this world, because people are never short in choosing comfort over truth. Kindness without strength is weakness. Strength without kindness is brutality. The balance of the two is mastery. You can be calm yet not passive. You can be generous yet not naive. You can be forgiving yet not a fool. Machiavelli's real message was not about corruption. It was about awareness. The one who sees reality clearly is the one who can move through it unharmed. He can play the game without being consumed by it. Once you understand these laws, you stop reacting to people. You start reading them. You see through flattery. You recognize manipulation not as a mystery, but as a predictable strategy. You stop hoping for fairness and begin building leverage. Power does not belong to those who want it most. It belongs to those who understand it best. Machiavelli knew that morality without power is fragile. Power without morality is chaos. The goal is not to be ruthless. The goal is to be unshakable. Every age needs men who can think like this, calm, strategic, grounded. The world still runs on the same forces that ruled Florence in the 15th century: fear, desire, appearance, ambition. Only the language has changed. So remember what he taught. People are emotional. Loyalty is earned. Reputation is power. Conflict is constant. Niceness is not goodness. You can't go back once you've perceived the truth in them. The illusions fall away. The noise becomes pattern. You stop expecting others to behave by rules that never existed. That's when you begin to move differently. You pause before speaking. You read before reacting. You choose your alliances with discernment. You become the calm eye in the middle of the storm. And in that stillness, people start to feel something they can't describe. They call it confidence, presence, command. What it really is understanding. It means power is not a mask. It is a mirror. It reflects the level of your awareness. The deeper you see, the quieter you become. And the quieter you become, the stronger your influence grows. That is Machiavelli's warning. The world rewards those who can see it clearly and punishes those who refuse to look. Machiavelli never intended to create monsters. He intended to create clarity. He did not write for tyrants but for those who would survive among them. He knew well that truth, when deprived of its illusions, looks very much like cruelty to those who live inside lies. In Florence, he watched good men destroyed by their own innocence, trusting promises, confusing mercy with safety, believing virtue alone could shield them from ambition. He saw how easily generosity was mistaken for weakness, and how quickly loyalty was traded for advantage. From that vision, his philosophy emerged, not cynical, not evil, just awake. He began with a question. What moves men when no one is watching? His answer was simple: fear, desire, and necessity. People move when they want something or when they're forced to. Those are the only two levers that really govern behavior. Everything else, values, beliefs, morality, are decorations laid over deeper impulses. You can see it now as clearly as he did. The colleague who flatters a superior to get a promotion. The politician who promises care but is pursuing control. The friend who disappears when you can no longer be useful. None of this is new. It is the same play repeated through time. When Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved," he did not say it because he wished to inspire terror. What he meant is that predictability is safer than affection. Love is volatile. It rises with reward and falls with disappointment. Fear, when balanced with respect, remains constant. People respect boundaries they know you will defend. To be feared rightly is not to threaten. It is to carry the presence of consequence. The man who stands calmly in his own authority doesn't need to raise his voice. He doesn't need to prove strength. Others feel it and adjust. This is not intimidation. It is coherence. It is a signal of inner order in a disordered world. That's why Machiavelli placed such great emphasis on perception. People respond to images, not arguments. The one who shapes the image shapes the narrative. Whoever controls the narrative controls destiny. This is not manipulation. It is communication at its highest level. You are always sending signals, through the tone, through silence, through the quality of your attention. When those signals are unconscious, others use them against you. When they're conscious, you're in control of the room, without saying one word. He wrote that the prince must appear merciful, faithful, humane, and honest, but must also be able to act otherwise when necessity demands it. Most readers saw hypocrisy in those words. What he meant was adaptability. Appear as virtue when virtue serves. Withdraw it when it endangers you. Modern culture teaches unconditional transparency. Machiavelli warned against it. It is not purity, but exposure. A wise man knows what truth to share and what truth to guard. He believed that to survive, one had to adopt a fluid morality, not because right and wrong do not exist, but because they become impotent without context. A ruler too merciful or a merciless world is courting disaster. A man who forgives easily only teaches others to harm him with impunity. Compassion cannot afford to be spineless. In every relationship, there is an unspoken dance of power. It ebbs and flows with mood, with timing, with need. Machiavelli called it fortune, the unpredictable flow of circumstance. He advised preparing for it, like a sailor prepares for storms. Control what you can. Anticipate what you cannot. When the wind changes, adjust the sails, not your purpose. He said fortune favors the bold, but the bold he spoke of were not reckless. They were disciplined. They moved when others hesitated. They seized opportunity before it became obvious. The modern world cloaks this behind politeness. People call it networking or intuition or confidence, but it's the same old law. The moment when one man sees what others refuse to and acts. Machiavelli said that people, for the most part, do not act because they want certainty. They wait for guarantees that never come. The strong move first. Action creates its own evidence. That is why he wrote that fortune is like a river. When it floods, you cannot stop it. But if you build banks and channels during the calm, you direct its flow when it comes. Preparation is control disguised as patience. He knew that waiting is not the opposite of power. It is part of it. The wise learn to sense the current before it breaks. They know when to pause, when to speak, and when to strike. There is a rhythm to all influence. Push too soon and you meet resistance. Wait too long and the moment dies. It was Machiavelli's gift to see that rhythm in everything. He understood that morality without timing is useless, that courage without calculation is waste. Betrayal filled his world, but such betrayals were never random events. They followed weakness. Someone failed to notice shifting loyalties. Someone ignored silence where there used to be praise. Someone trusted the words of a friend who had already changed sides. That is why he said that a wise ruler must always assume that human loyalty is temporary, not because people are evil, but because their priorities change. The man who expects eternal loyalty expects a world that does not exist. The man who anticipates change never loses his footing when it comes. It is not coldness, it is awareness. It is the quiet understanding that everyone acts from need, including you. As a matter of fact, Machiavelli's work is not about domination. It is about survival without illusion, to see people as they are, not as you'd like them to be. To be able to lead without resentment, to learn to forgive without forgetting. He believed that it is in knowing what the world is made of, and acting accordingly, that the only real peace lies. And so, he advised learning both the nature of the lion and the fox. The lion to frighten wolves, the fox to recognize traps. Strength and guile together form balance. Without the fox, the lion is brutally predictable. Without the lion, the fox is clever but powerless. Put them together and they become unassailable. He warned that to rely on one nature is to fail. You must be able to change shape when the terrain demands it. Sometimes you lead with compassion. Sometimes you lead with authority. The art lies in knowing which moment you are in. Power is not something you possess. It's something you project a frequency. And that frequency comes from aligning perception, preparation, and adaptability. That is why he wrote that men rise from fortune by virtue and fall from virtue by fortune. Virtue, in his sense, was not moral goodness. It was mastery, the skill of aligning action with opportunity. To the initiated, his lessons liberated them. For those afraid of the truth, it was heresy. What he left behind was not instruction for cruelty, but a mirror to the human condition. It showed that manipulation thrives only where awareness is absent, that fear rules only where preparation fails, and chaos wins only when order sleeps. He uncovered the code beneath civilization, and once you learn to read that code, you stop being surprised by anything. Machiavelli understood something few ever do. Power is not seized once and held forever. It is maintained daily, moment by moment, through perception, timing, and restraint. He observed that a man does not lose power because others take it. He loses it because he forgets how to protect it. For in Florence, he witnessed leaders fall, not through weakness of force, but through weakness of awareness. They grew comfortable. They mistook loyalty for permanence. They took silence for safety. And by the time they realized the tides had shifted, their power was gone. It is in this that lies the danger of comfort. It dulls the instinct to read the room. It weakens the ability to sense change. The man who believes his position is secure has already begun to lose it. Machiavelli taught that the wise man has to live with one eye on the visible and one on the invisible. The visible is what people say, how they act, the agreements they make. The invisible is what they want, what they fear, what they hide. Most people remain at the surface. They hear words and take them for their face value. They believe promises because they wish to do so. Those who look deeper perceive what does not match, the tone that betrays anxiety, the gesture that gives away guilt, the pause that conceals a lie. This is not paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Human behavior is predictable once you understand its roots. Every person has two motives: what they say to the world and what they really are after. One keeps the peace, the other guides their actions. Machiavelli's genius was in understanding that both must be studied together. To deal only with the spoken motive is to live in fantasy. To see only the hidden one is to grow bitter. True mastery lies in knowing both and in responding without emotional distortion. He believed that emotion is the first enemy of power. Anger clouds strategy. Pride blinds perception. Compassion without limits weakens discipline. The mind that stays calm when insulted, that does not rush to defend itself, holds the greatest control. For him, men should be slow to believe and slower to act in anger. He knew reaction is a chain, and whoever controls the first link controls the rest. The man who provokes you steals your strategy. The one who observes before moving rewrites the game. To Machiavelli, calm was not softness, it was precision. He saw that the most powerful leaders were those who could appear calm even in crisis. Their composure disoriented their rivals. When others expected retaliation, they gave silence. When others expected fear, they gave patience. That unpredictability created advantage. It was not about deceit. It was about control. In every social arrangement, whether it be a court or a company, people probe boundaries. They poke to see where the power lies. The weak strike first. The strong act when it counts. A man of power does not hurry to defend everything that is attacked. He lets time take its toll. He allows others to exhaust themselves through impatience and by exposing their motivations and intentions. Then when the time comes, he acts one single time, decisively. This is not cruelty. It is conservation of energy. Machiavelli warned against constant fighting. He said that conflict should be brief, total, and followed by stability. Dragging battles drain strength and invite betrayal. He believed a ruler should end his conflicts as quickly as possible and rebuild the order immediately, because people forget pain faster than uncertainty. That insight holds good. People will forgive harshness if it brings stability, but they will never forgive weakness that brings chaos. This is why he prized decisiveness above popularity. The leader who hesitates loses trust. The leader who chooses clearly, even if not loved, becomes predictable. Predictability is the foundation of control. To rule others, you have first to rule yourself. It is in self-governance that the invisible core of power resides. Without it, authority is but noise. He who cannot master his impulses cannot command loyalty. He who cannot direct his focus cannot sustain momentum. That is why Machiavelli emphasized discipline as a root of leadership. Discipline in thought, speech, and emotion. He knew that restraint creates gravity, and people gravitate toward those who hold steady, while others spiral. He said fortune favors the bold, but only when boldness meets preparation. Boldness without order is recklessness. Order without boldness is stagnation. The art lies in balancing the two. In his private letters, he often likened leadership to playing a chess game, where every piece represented an instinct. The king is vision. The queen is adaptability. The knights are cunning. The pawns are habits. Lose control of the board and your instincts start to move without command. He realized that human beings are at once the players and pieces of their own lives. Those who don't see the game get moved around by it. Those who study the game move with intention. This holds in the modern world, too. You are being played every day, through advertising, by persuasion, through social expectation, and to be Machiavellian in the truest sense of the word isn't to manipulate others. It's actually to stop being unconsciously manipulated. Awareness becomes armor. Once you see the invisible strings, you no longer dance to them. You choose your movements. He said the greatest danger to a capable man is to believe that others think as he does. Good men assume others value truth. Honest men assume honesty is returned. It rarely is. To live with the world, you've got to accept imperfection. You've got to take human nature as it is, not as you'd like it to be. Whoever keeps grasping at idealism will be disappointed. Whoever accepts reality finds freedom. For Machiavelli, freedom did not derive from governments or laws. It was something won by knowledge. The free man cannot so easily be deceived because he sees through the appearance. He cannot so easily be ruled because he knows the rules. When you have reached that level of awareness, you stop chasing approval. You begin to shape the field itself. Machiavelli's warning was never to become cruel. It was to avoid being naive. It is naivety, he said, which is the root of every fall. For the man who believes that the world will reward virtue without power is the man who feeds wolves with his bare hands. He did not despise morality. He despised hypocrisy. He wanted men to be good because they chose it, not because they were too weak to be anything else. To choose goodness while fully aware of evil is the greatest strength. To remain gentle when you could destroy his mastery. That is the sort of power he respected. The power of a man who had seen both light and shadow, and who had learned to walk between them. Machiavelli's world was not so different from our own. His cities were filled with gossip, deception, and ambition. His leader smiled while plotting. His people believed what made them feel safe. The patterns repeat. The faces change. The motives remain. And so his warning remains too. The one who understands power must never become its slave. Use it, but do not let it use you. Influence others, but never lose the mirror of self-awareness. For power without reflection eventually turns on its holder. It consumes the mind which cannot control it. Machiavelli wrote his truths not to harden the reader, but to awaken him, to remind him that control begins with seeing. Strength begins with silence. Victory begins with understanding human nature, not condemning it. He saw that the world is not ruled by good intentions, but by those who know how to use them wisely. And the moment you grasp that, the game changes. You stop being a piece on the board. You start becoming the one who moves them. Machiavelli knew that power never lasts. It is something that needs to be renewed daily through awareness and sharpness. A man who has influence yet stops observing the patterns around him starts to rot inside. It is not in defeat, but in distraction, that decay begins. He wrote that the greatest danger a ruler faces is not rebellion, but complacency. When men believe their strength is unchallenged, they lose the sharpness which made them powerful. This applies to every level of life. When you stop noticing, you stop adapting. He called it the corruption of virtue, not moral corruption, but the dulling of skill. Vertk, in his language, meant the living energy of capability, the fire that adapts to change, the discipline to shape destiny rather than wait for it. The moment a man begins to believe he has mastered the game, the game begins to master him. That is why Machiavelli urged constant recalibration. He believed that life itself is political, not in the sense of government, but in the sense of human behavior. Every interaction, every alliance, every silence is a negotiation of power. Most ignore it. The few who don't are the ones who shape the outcomes. He realized that society rewards appearances and not intentions. They say that they love honesty, however, they reward confidence. They say that they value morality, but they follow power. They claim to long for equality, yet they naturally cling to every form of hierarchy. These are not contradictions in terms. They are the structures of human behavior. To survive within that architecture, you need to move consciously. You need to know when to speak the truth and when to hold your tongue. You need to feel the difference between sincerity and strategy. Machiavelli never said that deception was virtue. He said that pretending the world runs on purity is delusion. The man who insists on total honesty in a dishonest world is not noble. He's vulnerable. The wise man learns to balance truth with timing. He wrote that it is praiseworthy to keep faith when possible, but to know how to break it when necessity demands. His readers accused him of advocating deceit, but he was describing reality, not prescribing sin. And he knew that power is fragile when it depends upon trust alone. If the world were peopled by saints, trust would rule. But it is not. And so, power comes to those who know how and when to protect, and when to withdraw trust. Machiavelli believed in the theory of measured ruthlessness. Just as it acts only when delay would cause greater harm, a king who spares an enemy today may face betrayal tomorrow. A man who avoids confrontation to stay comfortable allows decay to grow. The lesson is never to strike in cruelty, but to act before disorder spreads. Mercy at the wrong time becomes violence later. Discipline in the beginning prevents chaos in the end. He believed that order itself is an act of compassion. Setting boundaries and standing firm provides clarity for others. People respect limits, though they may resist them. Chaos results when no one knows what is allowed. That is why Machiavelli valued consistency above kindness. One can trust a consistent leader, even if his people fear him. One cannot trust an inconsistent one who is loved today and despised tomorrow. In your life, this means something so simple and yet so rare. Say less, but mean everything you say. Speak promises you can sustain. End what you must end. Reward loyalty with generosity, but let betrayal meet silence, not pleading. Silence is colder than anger. It leaves no doorway for manipulation. He also warned that isolation destroys rulers. The powerful must stay surrounded by truth-tellers, not flatterers. Flattery blinds. It makes a man believe his power comes from his essence, not his awareness. When everybody is agreeing with you, you're already surrounded by decay. The wise invite correction from people who have nothing to gain. They foster relationships that sharpen them, not those that praise them. That is why Machiavelli wrote that a prince who surrounds himself with wise men proves his wisdom. A ruler who fears honesty invites ruin. In order to retain power, he said, you must nurture both allies and adversaries. Allies remind you of purpose, while adversaries remind you of precision. Without either, you stagnate. And then he introduced his most dangerous idea. He said cruelty, when used once and for necessity, can be mercy. And this astounded the world. What he meant was that definitive steps, though painful, avert endless suffering. A ruler who shuns hard realities causes greater destruction through delay. It is the same in smaller ways. The leader who won't fire the incompetent, the friend who won't end the toxic relationship, the parent who's afraid to enforce the consequence, all delay the necessary pain and multiply the damage. To Machiavelli, morality without clarity is sentimentality. It feels righteous, but it accomplishes nothing. He saw that the hardest act is sometimes the most humane. He taught that the man who wants to rule must be loved and feared. However, if he cannot be both, he must make sure he is respected. Love can fade, fear can turn, but respect endures, because it is based on recognition, not emotion. Respect is born when people sense that you cannot be easily moved. They may disagree with you, but they can't dismiss you. They may not love you, but they listen when you speak. And that, Machiavelli believed, was the true measure of mastery, not adoration, not dominance, but stability, the calm in the middle of chaos. He knew that the world shall always push one between morality and necessity, between mercy and firmness, truth and strategy. Most people pick a side and cling to it. The wise learn to move between them. Balance is not compromise. It's knowing when each is needed. He saw that life is one long negotiation between idealism and realism. The strong do not abandon ideals. They anchor them in structure. They know a good heart without clear boundaries becomes a liability, and therefore, the wisdom of Machiavelli is a mirror to every generation. Once you read him carefully, you'll realize he was not teaching how to oppress. He was teaching how to survive among those who do. He described the rules of power, so that the honest might defend themselves from the cunning. That's the paradox of his legacy. A book condemned for being immoral was, in fact, one of the most honest ever written. It lifts the scrim of false virtues, showing the machinery that drives humans. To read him is to grow uncomfortable. To understand him is to grow awake. He knew the world was not kind, but he also knew that knowledge is the only kindness that matters. Because once you see how people move, you can choose how to move with them. You can engage without being consumed. You can forgive without becoming blind. That is what Machiavelli meant when he wrote that fortune favors the prepared mind, not only in politics, but in every moment where power shifts hands. A man who sees clearly does not fight every battle. He selects them. A man who sees clearly does not chase approval. He commands presence. He does not fear chaos. He learns to dance with it. And that dance, that calm awareness moving through unpredictability, is what separates the ruled from the ruler. The world of Machiavelli was a mirror held up to human nature. His words still sting because they expose what most people refuse to see. He never offered comfort. He offered precision, gave words to those instincts that civilization tries to bury. He felt that those who wish only to be loved will be controlled. Those who wish only to control will be feared and alone. Those who recognize both forces and use them at will are the ones who endure. He taught that the highest form of power is not the throne, it's influence, the ability to shape choices without force. The man who commands obedience through fear is crude. The man who inspires action through perception is refined. The first rules bodies, the second rules minds. Influence, he wrote, begins long before the command. It begins in how you move, how you speak, how you withhold. People decide who you are before you open your mouth. They feel your certainty or your lack of it. They sense your center of gravity. The one who is anchored within cannot be easily swayed from without. That is why he said, the wise man appears composed even when uncertain. Calmness is not the absence of chaos, for it is mastery over reaction. The crowd will follow whoever stays steady, while others panic. Stability becomes magnetism. He also knew that power without direction consumes itself. Ambition without structure becomes chaos. The man who desires influence must first decide his purpose. Power serves nothing until it serves something. Without purpose, every strategy corrodes into manipulation. Machiavelli's advice was not to abandon morality, but to fortify it with realism. Goodness, untempered by awareness, becomes naivety. Awareness, untempered by goodness, becomes cruelty. The balance of the two is wisdom. He often wrote how men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and greedy. Yet, he did not despise them for it. He accepted that imperfection is constant. One only leads oneself to disillusion by expecting purity from others. The wise do not demand perfection. They anticipate behavior and prepare for it. Preparation is the quiet form of dominance. The one who is ready does not need to control. He adjusts. He remains fluid when others freeze. When everyone else is shocked by change, he's already moving through it. That's the latent message behind his most famous principle. Fortune favors the bold. Boldness isn't recklessness, it's readiness. The bold are those who have rehearsed uncertainty in their minds till it no longer startles them. They do not wait for courage. They build it through familiarity with fear. They understand that the heart does not grow calm by avoiding storms. It grows calm by walking through them and returning intact. Machiavelli wrote that people rarely see the truth. They see reflections of their desire. The successful man learns to recognize those desires and speak to them without being owned by them. He doesn't waste energy trying to wake those who would rather sleep. He uses the sleeping world as terrain. He walks softly while others are dreaming about fairness. But he also warned of a deeper danger. He said the pursuit of control can erode the soul if it becomes the only pursuit. A man who lives only to manage others loses the ability to feel. A man who cannot feel loses the ability to judge. Thus, even in mastery, he advocated moderation. He taught that wisdom lies not in constant manipulation, but in choosing when not to. There is a time for guile and a time for straightforwardness. The man who cannot distinguish becomes lost in his own machinations. The greatest strategist is not the one who controls everyone, but the one who no longer needs to. The man whose presence commands respect without words has transcended the need for constant defense. He moves like water through the cracks of circumstance. That stillness of power, that invisible gravity, is the mark of true authority. The most dangerous illusion is the belief that you are safe, Machiavelli wrote. When you feel invincible, you stop adapting. When you feel complete, you stop growing. Power ends the moment it stops learning. It was for that reason that throughout his life he studied men. He treated every betrayal, every failure, every victory as information, experience. He believed was the true teacher, not ideology. He died without wealth, without position, but his mind outlived every prince he served. For power fades, systems collapse, but knowledge remains. His warning to us is simple. The world will always play the same game, only with new faces and new words. And the man who refuses to learn its rules will call himself virtuous while being used, while the man who learns them without reflection will call himself strong while turning into the thing he feared. But the one who sees clearly and acts with both strategy and conscience is untouchable. He knows the difference. Manipulation is awareness without empathy. Add back the empathy, and the same knowledge becomes leadership. He saw that goodness knowing its own strength becomes wisdom. Strength that remembers compassion becomes justice. That is the balance. To be both fox and lion, mind and muscle, calculation and heart. The true Machiavellian is not ruthless, he is awake. He knows that to shape the world, you first have to shape your perception. He knows to rule others, first you have to rule your reactions. He knows only then you can be free. When you see the game, and never forget you're also a game piece. And that is the quiet paradox of power. The minute one realizes that control is never total, one begins to wield it wisely. The minute one ceases needing to dominate, one becomes unmovable. Machiavelli's final gift was not a map through which to rule others, but a mirror for the mind, a reminder that clarity is the ultimate weapon. When you can perceive people as they are, without hate and without illusion, you don't get manipulated anymore by their shadows. You move with precision. You speak when it matters. You remain silent when that serves you. You wear the calm of one who has seen the machinery of the world and has chosen to walk through it awake. That was his warning. That was his secret. That was his freedom.